What's up, summoners? With another patch, it's time for us to drop another Korean builds video. My name is Tia, and I'll be introducing you to some new builds for every single role. Before we start though, hit that sub button. We're always creating informational content you don't want to miss out on. Also, it helps us out a ton, so we really appreciate it. All right, now let's hop into the video. Starting with the top lane, we've got a build for Rumble. This is a more aggressive setup, perfect for solo queue. The most notable difference in this build is that you'll want to use Summoner Heal instead of Teleport. While this may sound strange, there are plenty of advantages you shouldn't overlook. Although Ignite is the typical aggressive summoner spell to run when you forego Teleport, Heal is a highly underrated alternative. One blatant advantage is that Heal helps out not only you, but one other ally. It's arguably the strongest summoner spell to run in 2v2 fights, so if you expect there to be plenty of jungle interaction, you're going to have a huge advantage. Even alone, Heal provides everything you want as Rumble. He deals a lot of damage. The issue always comes down to if he can stay in range of his opponents or not. Heal's extra movement speed can help give you that extra push to stay in range for the entire duration of your Q. As opposed to Summoner Ghost, Heal provides some extra combat power as well. The Heal obviously makes you a little tankier than you appear, which is another good reason why Heal is pretty good. You want to bait your opponent into taking close fights that they'll barely lose. While in ways this could be considered a cheese build, it's really no different than playing with Ignite, as you're giving up Teleport for more combat power. For runes, run Arcane Comet, Nimbus Cloak, Absolute Focus, Scorch, Taste of Blood, Ultimate Hunter, Double Adaptive Force, and either Armor or MR based on matchup. For items, you'll start with a Doran's Ring or a Doran's Shield versus ranged. Then, rush Sorcerer's Shoes and build Dark Seal, Night Harvester, Zhonya's Hourglass, and Rabadon's Deathcap. If you snowball, finish the Dark Seal and upgrade to Mejai's. Otherwise, sell it for a situational item like a Banshee's Veil, Void Staff, or Morellonomicon. Really quick, I've also got our question of the day for you guys. The meta has developed and new builds are coming from left and right. What have been your favorite new items, combinations, or builds on champions you like to play? Although it isn't fun to play against, it's been a blast playing as Maokai with Imperial Mandate and Demonic Embrace. I didn't think AP Maokai would ever become a thing again, but Season 11 is unpredictable and, hashtag curveballs. Let me know your answers in the comments below. Now let's jump right back into the video. Another pick we're seeing more of in the top lane is Ryze. Slowly but surely, he's been seeing more play overall, and it's no surprise that players have started using him in the top lane as well. For his runes, you'll run Phase Rush, Mana Flow Band, Transcendence, Gathering Storm, Taste of Blood, Ravenous Hunter, Double Adaptive Force, and either Magic Resistance or Armor based on matchup. For his items, you'll build Tear of the Goddess as your starter, then purchase Ionian Boots of Lucidity, Dark Seal, Rift Maker, upgrade to an Archangel's Staff, buy either a Zhonya's or Banshee's Veil, and then finish off the core build with a Rabadon's Deathcap. Sell the Dark Seal later into the game and tech in either Frozen Heart, Void Staff, or Dead Man's Plate based on what you need. With Rift Maker's changes this patch, Void Staff is obviously going to be necessary much more often. One good thing about the Rift Maker change is that you're going to be a bit tankier than before. The extra health it now provides gives you that durability to tank some burst damage, stare at your opponent, and give them that sudden realization that they're the ones in danger. Dun dun dun! If you're able to survive, you can deal an incredible amount of damage with your short cooldowns, and you'll heal it back up with Ravenous Hunter, as well as the Omnivamp from Riftmaker. Frozen Heart is a heavily underrated item on Ryze. Definitely not a typical core item, but it provides a great stat line for him. Armor, mana, and ability haste are all great for Ryze, and if you're playing against a heavily stacked AD team, I wouldn't sleep on it. Another thing I wouldn't sleep on is really knowing your matchups, especially in the top lane. If you want to improve and not lose, head on over to ProGuides.com because our coaches want to help you become a better player. The final top lane pick we have is Karma. This build also flexes into the mid lane. You can already guess the premise of this Karma build. It abuses Moonstaff, the combination of Moonstone Renewer and Staff of Flowing Water. Karma in lane is not weak by any means. She's ranged, has good poke, and is relatively safe with her ability to root an approaching enemy while using her E to make a quick getaway. She's been buffed recently to make missing her Qs less punishing and landing them even more rewarding than before. Even if you only manage to go even in lane, there's still a big win because of the insane utility you'll provide with Moonstaff during teamfights. Another great part about this pick is that you synergize incredibly well with carry junglers like Kindred and Graves. Your 2v2 power is amazing as you're essentially a support marksman duo, except the support has a lot more gold to buy items with. For runes, run Summoner Airy, Mana Flow Band, Transcendence, Gathering Storm, Font of Life, Revitalize, Ability Haste, Adaptive Force, and either MR or armor based on matchup. For items, start with Doran's Ring and build a Dark Seal, Moonstone Renewer, Ionian Boots, Staff of Flowing Water, and Ardent Censer. Situational items include Medjai's Soul Stealer, Rabadon's Death Cap, Mikhail's Redemption, and Chemtech Putrefier. That'll wrap up the top lane builds, so like always, we'll put them up on the screen for you one last time to take a look. Next, let's move on to jungle builds. In the jungle, we've got some speedy boys on the rise. First is UDYR, who, although nerfed this patch, has been popping off. We even see him in competitive play, something most of us never really expected. The reason for this is that Turbo Chem Tank is an affordable, effective purchase on UDYR. It provides extra durability and, more importantly, it allows UDYR to hunt down his targets and actually get an auto attack range, which is usually a huge issue for him. With his great weakness practically nullified, UDYR is free to utilize his insane damage output and dueling power to carry the early and mid game. While it's preference, of course, we suggest giving Summoner Ghost a try. It's on a shorter cooldown, and with it, you can usually chase down enemies even if they flash away. The extra movement speed can provide a lot more value over longer fights, while Flash is used once and you're waiting 5 minutes for its cooldown. For runes, run Conqueror, Triumph, Legend Tenacity, Last Stand, Conditioning, Unflinching, Attack Speed, Adaptive Force, and Armor. Unflinching is an incredible rune to take, and you can't sleep on it. Turbo Chem Tank no longer provides slow resistance and tenacity, so taking this rune can allow you to access it even if you end up building plated steel caps. For items, you'll build an Ember Knife, then move on to Turbo Chem Tank, Defensive Boots, Deadman's Plate, Lichbane, and Sterix Gauge. Situational items include Randuin's Omen, Thornmail, or even Force of Nature. Another champion who's dominating with Turbo Chem Tank is SKARNER. Like UDYR, the added mobility makes it so much easier to get in and single out priority targets. SKARNER is a scary champion when he can hunt you down and ult you. You're almost certainly dead without a Quicksilver. It's already hard to get away sometimes, but Turbo Chem Tank makes what's difficult nearly impossible. For runes, run Phase Rush, Nimbus Cloak, Transcendence, Water Walking, Hex Flash, and Cosmic Insight, followed by Attack Speed, Adaptive Force, and Armor. You can choose to run Celerity over Transcendence if you'd like, but you already have plenty of movement speed and it can get overkill. For items, build Hailblade, then follow up with Turbo Chem Tank, Ionian Boots, Deadman's Plate, Sterix Gauge, and Gargoyle's Stone Plate. Situational items are Abyssal Mask, Lichbane, Thornmail, or Force of Nature. SKARNER is a heavily underrated pick. On top of his iconic ultimate, SKARNER actually deals a surprisingly high amount of damage near his spires. His ability to skirmish is something players typically underestimate, so take advantage of this. Speed is what we've been talking about in the jungle this time around, and just like that, we've already finished the jungle builds. See what we did there? Take a look at the screen for a recap, save them, take a screenshot, do what you need to do. It hasn't been too long since his release, but VIEGO has already strayed away from the jungle and players have started playing him in the mid lane as well. This is because he does a ridiculous amount of damage. When I say ridiculous, I mean it. He catches a ton of players off guard in the mid lane, and you'd be surprised how easy it is to pick up solo kills when your enemies overextend even just a little bit. What makes VIEGO particularly strong is how easily he can apply on-hit effects. His Q allows him to strike an enemy twice after using a damaging ability on them. As a result, Press the Attack as well as the item Kraken Slayer synergize disgustingly well with him. Speaking of which, his runes are Press the Attack, Triumph, Alacrity, Coup de Grace, Second Wind against ranged champions, or Bone Plating against melee, Revitalize, Double Adaptive Force, and either Magic Resistance or Armor. Although Conqueror is very popular and easy to stack, we suggest Press the Attack because of how quickly VIEGO can activate it. This will help you with short trades and also when trying to burst down enemies, so you can use your passive. For items, start Doran's Shield against ranged champions or Doran's Blade against melee ones. Next, you build Kraken Slayer, Defensive Boots, Blade of the Ruined King, Steric's Gauge, and Ravenous Hydra. Situational items include Guardian Angel, Randuin's Omen, Spirit Visage, and Chempunk Chainsword. Like we've been saying, if you're hitting your Q on your opponents, you can activate Kraken Slayer and press the attack with only 2 attacks. This leads to insane DPS regardless of what role you play him. Mix it up on your enemies and pick him up in the mid lane. Given some time, Set has made his way back into the mid lane. AD mid laners can be pretty difficult to deal with when you're playing a fragile AP carry early on. In my opinion, AD champions tend to punish mistakes harder because early on they usually have enough damage to take you from full to 0, while AP champions generally need to poke you down a little bit and take it slower. Plenty of reasons for this, but base stats do play a big part. Set is blessed with some high base resistances and base health, making him a pretty tough enemy to fight head-on. As opposed to the top lane where he's usually playing against other beefy brawlers, he can threaten solo kills very early on in the mid lane. For runes, run Conqueror, Triumph, Legend Tenacity, Last Stand, Second Wind, Unflinching, Double Adaptive Force, and Armor. We also suggest running Summoner, Exhaust. Not only is this a great option against assassins, the slow can also be used aggressively against squishier enemies as well. Aggressively casting it to slow down your enemies can let you close the distance and then full to 0 them. For items, start with Doran's Shield, then build Defensive Boots, Stride Breaker, Deadman's Plate, and Steric's Gauge. Situationally, you can build Thornmail or Force of Nature for tank items, or Blade of the Ruined King if you want some more damage. If you're snowballing, consider building Blade of the Ruined King earlier. It's not just for the damage. The passive is very powerful on Set as it'll allow you to slow enemies, speed yourself up, and of course, beat them up. I know that playing melee against ranged champions can be pretty difficult. However, it's a skill I highly suggest you guys learn, and hitting up a coach on ProGuides.com can make it a lot easier. They'd love to help you guys out, so check out our website. That's it for the mid lane builds, so one more time, take a look at the screen for a recap of them. Alright, kicking it off in the bottom lane, we have Vayne. That rhymed. With the buffs to Immortal Shield Bow, we think it's definitely worth giving her a shot. While, yes, Kraken Slayer true damage alongside her W true damage allows her to quickly cut through enemies, we think it's a bit overkill. Your W already provides true damage, and you can instead invest into survivability. Typically, you're looking for long fights as Vayne anyway, since your goal is to kite enemies continuously, while also outplaying potential divers. For runes, you'll run Press the Attack, Overheal, Legend, Alacrity, Cut Down, Taste of Blood, and Ravenous Hunter. Take attack speed, adaptive force, and armor for your stats. In terms of items, start with either Doran's Blade or Shield based on your matchup, then followed up with Immortal Shield Bow, Berserker's Greaves, Phantom Dancer, Infinity Edge, and Bloodthirster. With the buffs to Phantom Dancer, you'll have an easier time activating its passive this patch, so give it a try if you weren't already using it. You can situationally tech in items like Rapid Fire Cannon, Spirit Visage, Mortal Reminder, Mercurial Scimitar, or Guardian Angel. With Ravenous Hunter and Immortal Shield Bow, you're going to heal quite a bit, so Spirit Visage is actually a decent purchase against teams heavily stacked with magic damage. The next bot laner we'll talk about is Senna. She's made her return after some massive buffs on patch 11.2. While the majority of the player base is still building lethality, many pro players have switched into a build that's very similar to a standard marksman build. In terms of items at least, Senna remains an anomaly in terms of runes. For runes, you'll use Glacial Augment, Magical Footwear, Biscuit Delivery, Approach Velocity, Presence of Mind, Cut Down, Double Adaptive Force, and Armor. Glacial Augment remains one of the most optimal keystones on Senna because of her massive range advantage. When kiting enemies, all that matters is that you have more movement speed than your opponents. You can achieve that by either speeding yourself up or, of course, slowing them down. Glacial Augment allows you to play around Senna's massive range to either kite or chase enemies. As you'd expect, you run Approach Velocity in the same tree to synergize with this. For items, build Doran's Blade and if possible, get a tier on your first base. Then you'll build Kraken Slayer, Boots of Swiftness, Manamune, Rapid Fire Cannon, and Infinity Edge. For situational items, consider Mortal Reminder, Mercurial Scimitar, or Guardian Angel. Kraken Slayer has become a great item on Senna as a result of the massive buff to her attack speed last patch. Senna's Q can apply on-hit effects, and the passive bonus stat is attack speed, so you'll gain more and more as you finish your legendaries. Combined with Rapid Fire Cannon, you'll be able to burst down enemies from nearly an entire screen away, and also deal a ton of consistent DPS throughout fights. Our final bot lane build is for Soraka. While Soraka is starting to see play in solo lanes as well, we want to highlight her as a bot laner because, well, you don't have a teammate to heal in solo lanes. Not being able to use one of your most important abilities during the laning phase is kind of counterintuitive, don't you think? You could run out of lane to hunt down your jungler and heal them, but it's definitely a lot less troll to lane with a buddy. With the surge of the Moonstaff build, Soraka is seeing a lot of success doubling up with another utility support or with notable carry supports like Senna and PYKE. For runes, run Summonary, Mana Flow Band, Transcendence, Scorch or Gathering Storm, Second Wind, Revitalize, Double Adaptive Force, and usually Armor but MR if that's better for your lane. For items, start with Doran's Ring, then follow up with Dark Seal, Moonstone Renewer, Ionian Boots, Staff of Flowing Water, and Ardent Censer. For situational items, you can upgrade Dark Seal to Medjai's if you're dominating, and even throw in a Rabadon's for insane healing. Otherwise, items like Mikhail's, Redemption, and Chemtech Putrifier are all great options as well. You can save your allies from having to build healing reduction with the newly changed Putrifier, so give it a shot if your allies need those item slots for other purchases. That'll wrap up the bot lane builds, so take a look at the screen for a recap. With that said, let's jump into support to wrap things up. While Imperial Mandate Bard has been the go-to for players since the preseason started, we finally got an alternative build that's popping up here and there. So there's two things that I think Bard is known for: actually dealing damage while being a support, and being hard to catch. The damage speaks for itself with the Mandate build. He's also slippery with his portals and is basically the Usain Bolt of Summoner's Rift, with all the bonus movement speed players like to build on him. Focusing on the latter, players have started building Shrelia's Battle Song following some changes to the item. It sounds ironic, but trading out the bonus movement speed for ability power has made it a better purchase for Bard. As a result of this change, it's easily comparable to Imperial Mandate as it provides the same amount of base AP. As you build items, you'll gain bonus movement speed from the Mythic passive rather than the Mandate's flat AP. You also trade Mandate's passive for Shrelia's. While it lags behind a little bit in terms of damage, you get Shrelia's massive movement speed boost when you activate it. Of course, there's a huge pros and cons list to compare the two, but the main point here is that you still do get some damage from Shrelia's and a lot more utility as well. For runes, run Guardian, Font of Life, Bone Plating or Second Wind, Unflinching, Zombie Ward, Relentless Hunter, Attack Speed, Armor, and Magic Resistance. For items, start with Relic Shield, then build Shrelia's Battle Song, Ionian Boots, and Zeke's. For situational items, you can build Redemption, Knight's Vow, Mikhail's Crucible, and of course, a Dead Man's Plate. The final build we've got for you guys is one for PYKE. First, let's run through runes and items. For runes, run Aftershock, Demolish, Bone Plating, Unflinching, Cheap Shot, Relentless Hunter, Double Adaptive Force, and Armor. For items, start with Steel Shoulder Guards, then build either Boots of Mobility or Swiftness, Prowler's Claw, Umbral Glaive, Edge of Night, and Yomu's Ghostblade. What's special about this build is Prowler's Claw. You can cast your E, then use Prowler's Claw to set it up, and make it extremely easy to land. Your enemies can definitely still dodge it, but it'll be very difficult or force them to either use abilities or Summoner Flash to escape. This single item changes things up significantly for PYKE as it adds a new dimension to his gameplay. Prowler's Claw also adds some extra burst damage, which can make it easier to set up your executes with your ultimate. For items you can tech in situationally, consider Mercurial Scimitar or Maw of Malmortius against heavy magic damage. With that covered, we've wrapped up our support builds, so we'll put them up on the screen one last time for you. That'll conclude our Korean builds for patch 11.3. Thank you guys for watching, and make sure to also check out our Discord. We've got a great community you can be a part of, and we have a link in our description if you want to check it out. Because friendship! I'll see you guys in our next video, but until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and have a great rest of your day. And that's an order.